Welcome back to our study on the book of Genesis. We are in chapter 4. And I would love for you to begin our time together by reading through chapter 4, verses 1 through 26 in the Bible version of your choice. And this will be one of those times, there'll be just one or two other times where I'll say, if you don't want to do that, that's fine, because I'd like you to go through the version of the story that I have, the version of the chapter that I have printed out for you. So that's in your worksheets, and I'd love for you to take a look at that. And I'm going to read it through right now, and you could listen and read the English, or you can follow along with me in this version. What I've done for you here in this version is to translate the Hebrew in a far more literal fashion than you're ever going to get in any English Bible. And I believe you'll find this to be a very revealing and colorful translation. We can do this in English. We can have this kind of conversation in English that you're going to experience here in this version of chapter 4. But if we were to take a conversation like this in English and translate it into another language, we'd probably lose all the color, all the pizzazz, all the interactivity between ideas and words. And that's what happens naturally in translations. That happens a lot. So I'm not faulting the English Bibles for not translating it in this way. But I think as we go through it, you'll discover just how much there is below the surface, how much you've never seen before. Now, in this particular printout, you'll see that the word brother is highlighted in red. And if you count the number of times that the word brother is used in this story, probably won't take you even a minute just to guess how many times it's used, because it is 7, of course. 7 is a huge number in Genesis. We don't often see it, because it's just part of the story. It's just naturally in there. But once you start like highlighting and counting and stuff, you're like, oh my goodness, it's everywhere. 7 is the way that the Hebrew here emphasizes something really important. And brotherhood is what's emphasized in this first part of chapter 4. All right, so here we go. And the Adam. When I read the Hebrew, and I'm not quite as proficient as just reading it, so I should say when I study the Hebrew, when the Hebrew says the Adam versus just saying Adam, it really seems to have the sense of us translating it as human or humanity. In our English Bibles, we say, now Adam knew Eve, his woman. But in the Hebrew, it has the word the in there. So it really says the Adam, the man thing. The human knew Eve, his woman. Oftentimes we translate that as wife. In the Hebrew, there is a word for wife. It's pretty much not used yet. This is more woman. Again, because I think what we're looking at here is the beginning of the story. There is the male, the man. There is the female, the woman. They're the only real relationship. They just are. They are a couple. It's as we go through history, and there's lots of more men and lots of more women, that we have to say, oh, okay, well, they're related as sisters. They're related as friends. They're related as wife and husband. They're related as groom and bride. as we go down through history, those words become more important. The Adam, the human, knew Eve, his woman, and she conceived and bore, obtain. You can also translate it, acquire. And she said, I have obtained, I have acquired a man from Yahweh or with Yahweh. Now, if you've followed along with the English, this is a whole lot different than the English. The English says, now Adam knew Eve, his wife, she conceived and bore Cain. My version says obtain. Well, the word Cain means to obtain. It means to acquire something. So for Eve, she didn't think Cain. She thought, I've gotten something. So I'm going to call what I've gotten, I got it. I have obtained from the Lord, and so I'm going to call that thing obtain. The phrase, with the help of the Lord, is not in the Hebrew. It's just not even in there. The Hebrew says, I have obtained, I have acquired a man. Then it has a preposition, which means from or with Yahweh. And when you realize that, you think, okay, now what's going on here? I have obtained a man from Yahweh. So God gave me a child. I have attained or acquired a man with Yahweh. With God, a man with God. What does that mean? So from there, we often go, oh, it means with the help of God. It could, but the Hebrew probably would have said it if that's what it meant to say. So it's kind of an interesting construction there. Again, she bore, or she birthed, his brother, breath. Because that's what Abel means. It means breath. And breath was a shepherd, but obtain was serving the ground. Same word used in Genesis 2:15, to Amar. He was serving the Adamah. Adam was taken from the Adamah. He was serving the ground. And it came to pass in the course of time that obtain brought from the fruit of the ground of the Adamah an offering to Yahweh. And breath he also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat. So firstborn. Firstborn is the precious one, because from there you're going to get more baby sheeps. So to sacrifice the first is to say, I trust God to give me more, because I'm going to kill this animal before it gives birth to others. Jeez. And of their fat. You know, I'm glad I'm in Texas, because when I say the fatty portions or the lean portions of the brisket, we all pretty much know that what that means. And that fat adds a lot of flavor. That was some of the good meat. So breath offered the good stuff. Yahweh looked or respected on breath and his offering, but obtain in his offering he did not look. God didn't look. He didn't respect it. Obtain was very incensed. The word means to be on fire. He was flaming. He was very flaming. He was angry, and his face fell. Watch a 2-year-old. Watch a 2-year-old get flaming mad. Their face falls. Yahweh said to obtain, why are you so fired up? Why are you incensed? Why is your face fallen? Is there not rising? The Hebrew word is rising. Is there not acceptance? Smile. Your face goes up. If you do well, and if you do not do well, at the door sin lies, and its desire, same word used in Genesis 3:16, its craving is for you, but you will rule over it. I mean, I take the rule over there, the you will rule over there, as the possibility. That's how I understand the language. I know there's a couple different ways to read that. When I read you will rule over it, it means if you so choose, if you so work, if you so obey me, you will rule over it. If you don't, it'll rule over you. And Obtain spoke with Breath, his brother. And it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Obtain rose up against his brother, Breath, and killed him. And Yahweh said to Obtain, where is Breath, your brother? And he said, I don't know. Am I shamaring? Same word as 2:15. Am I guarding? Am I keeping my brother? God said, what have you done? Yeah, the voice of the blood of your brother is crying to me from the Adamah. And now you are cursed from the Adamah. Ooh, you are cursed. What's the last thing God cursed? Last thing God cursed was the ground. And before that, the last thing God cursed was the last living thing God cursed was the serpent. God says, you are cursed from the ground, from the Adamah, which has opened its mouth to receive the blood of your brother. Number 7, from your hand. For when you serve the Adamah, it will no more give you its strength. You will be, and I get it. In English, we say drifting and wandering. In the Hebrew, it's na and nod. So you will be na and nod on the earth. And that's going to be important in just a minute. Na and nod. Obtain said to Yahweh, greater is my iniquity than I can bear. The word is iniquity. That my inherited sinfulness is more than I can bear. Good job, that's right. More than any of us can bear. We need a Savior. Behold, you have driven... Same thing used in Genesis 3:24. You have driven me today from the face of the Adamah, and from your face I am Esathar. And I will be gnaw and gnawed on the earth. And it will come to pass that anyone who finds me will kill me. And Yahweh said to Obtain, anyone who kills Obtain, here's the number, 7-fold vengeance on him. And Yahweh put on Obtain a mark, lest anyone finding him strike him or beat him. And Obtain went out from the presence of Yahweh and dwelt in the land of, what does our English Bible say? Nod. East of Eden. Right? So we translate some things, but not others. So we say he dwelt in the land of Nod, but that same word Nod means wandering, and that's exactly what Obtain said. I'm sorry, that's what God said to Obtain. You will be drifting, Nah, and wandering, Nod. And so when Cain or Obtain leaves the presence of Yahweh, he dwells in the land of wandering. He called the place where he went Nod, wandering. Continuing on, and Obtain knew his woman, and she conceived and bore dedicated. That's what Enoch means in Hebrew. When a Hebrew person hears Enoch, he hears dedicated. He built a city, and when we think city, I know, don't think like New Braunfels. He built a town. Think Marion, something really tiny. He called the name of the city or town after the name of his son, dedicated. Now, to dedicated was born Fleet, and Fleet fathered, it's either God smitten or God destroyed. And he fathered few people of God. Few people of God fathered Powerful. It's a very interesting name because when you look ahead to the seventh descendant of Adam in Genesis 5:24, he happens to be a very proud individual who thinks he is very powerful. Seventh. Isn't that interesting? Powerful took to himself 2 wives. The name of the one was Ornament. It's a nice name for a wife. The name of the second was Shade. Pretty names. Ornament bore Flowing, as in flowing water. He was the father of all who dwell in tents and have livestock. The name of his brother was Flow Along, as like a stream flows along. He was the father of all those who play the harp and the flute. Shade bore Flow from Obtain, so this whole flowing thing is part of the Hebrew. He was the instructor of all craftsmen in bronze and iron. And the sister of Flow from Obtain was Loveliness, or sweetness. That's what her name means. I'm sorry, I was pointing ahead to 5:24. What I really mean to say is in this chapter, the prideful man, Lamech, evidences his selfish power, I guess you could say. Powerful said to his wives, Ornament and Shade, hear my voice. Wives of Powerful, listen to my speech. For a man I have killed for wounding me, a boy for hurting me. If Obtain will be avenged sevenfold, then Powerful 77-fold. So it's interesting. He knows the word that was spoken to his ancestor to obtain, to Cain, and that has been passed down generation to generation. And now he says, well, I've killed somebody, and that was fun. So if that's 7, then I get 77-fold. So he claims for himself power and in his pride. And finishing up, and Adam, knew his woman again, and she bore a son, and she called his name Set. Also, we could say appointed. So like in English, we might say like set apart. If somebody is appointed for something, it's set upon them, or they are set apart for a task. For God has set or appointed for me another seed instead of breath, for Obtain killed him. And to Set was born to him a son, and he called his name, interesting, something having to do with frailty or humanity or man or mortalness, kind of a flexible word there. And then he began. And this is, for me, it's always a continuing mystery why the English Bibles do this. In the English Bible, the last sentence of chapter 4 says, at that time people began to call upon the name of the Lord. But in Hebrew, it says he, not people, he. It's a masculine, third person, singular word, singular verb, to call. He called, he began to call on Yahweh's name. So again, I don't know why they say people. That was always a continuing mystery to me. The Hebrew says this guy, Enosh, he began to call upon Yahweh's name. He prayed. He developed a personal one-on-one relationship with the Creator. Now, why is that significant? Well, when you look at everybody else that had come from the descendants of Obtain, the descendants of Cain, they just got further and further and further and further away from Yahweh and his name. We kind of go back. We kind of return to Adam, Eve. Maybe we are finding a way forward in history, through history, following God's will and purpose, instead of veering off. Maybe we've returned back to the core, the center, I don't know. We'll have to see if that's how things turn out. So that's all we have for this time in chapter 4. I hope that this has opened up chapter 4 for you in a new way and shown you a little bit of what's kind of hidden in the Hebrew. Next time we'll take up some various thoughts on chapter 4, some connections, and until then, the Lord bless you, keep you, and make his face to lift up and shine on you.